Chang. I started SC Like the Best, which we've now renamed the Michael Chang Show. STR Invest originally was created to help short-term rental investors better invest their time and money within short-term rentals. We brought on a lot of great investors and operators within short-term rentals in order to help you learn how to grow and start and grow your portfolio. We've rebranded the show to be a little broader now on investing, on technology, on AI. Still focused on short-term rentals, but we're going to cover some other topics outside the core short-term rentals. So we've renamed the show to make it more broad, so I hope you guys will enjoy our first inaugural episode of the Michael Chang Show. Um, my first guest is a good friend of mine, Annie. Annie has started a really, really interesting company within short-term rentals using AI and her knowledge of short-term rental real estate. So, my pleasure, Annie. Please, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Michael, for the warm intro and congrats on the rebrand.
Thank you very much. We'll see how it goes. We're excited though to explore a broader set of topics. Anyway, you want to just introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about your short-term rental background, investing background, and what you're doing on the AI front.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the co-founder of HelloHost. We're a company in the short-term rental space focused on automating guest communications and operations using AI agents. So my personal background spans management consulting. I actually started in the industry back in 2013, and it was that launched my short-term rental career because I was constantly traveling, and so I had my apartment available in downtown Toronto. So that also launched my sort of venture into STRs. Separately, I've been in technology slash early stage tech startups for a number of years, and then had the pleasure and the I think the luck to be able to combine my passion on the hosting and short term rental side with my background in software experience. So, yeah, that's a really quick intro, but happy to dive into any of that.
No, that's great. That's great. It's I think it's an intersection that has made your journey, I think, really interesting, and the product that you created really interesting. So Andy and I met almost a year plus ago in Miami. It was at the Hostaway User Conference. Annie and her husband had a booth. I actually just did my talk, and I think Kevin came up and was like, "Hey, this is what we do, and I'd love for you to meet Annie and let us explain kind of how we operate our short-term rentals." And then, after a short conversation with Annie, I was like, "Okay, this is kind of cool. Like, let's give it a shot." And then, we utilized Hello Host within our business. We started with three, candidly, three of our lowest performing listings because I wasn't really sure how it would go. So I was like, I think it's worth a shot. And I really wanted to leverage AI because I knew it would be such an important part of the business. And I think then within 2, 3 weeks, if that, our entire company runs on HelloHost, and I've introduced it to a number of my peers in the industry and to our community. And it's been really nice to see everyone getting really good results and being on the platform for all this time. So um, yeah, that's how I met Andy, and so I'm really excited today because like you saved me a ton of time and money. So anyone that can do that, like worthwhile, a great friend to have.
Glad to hear that, Michael. Yeah, my husband and I were at the Hostchella conference last year, and that was actually also a starting point for us in terms of um, the two of us, along with a few partners, invested and operate a retreat 3 hours north of Toronto. We have 16 properties there, and that was just a renovation of a 100-year-old resort into something that's a little bit more tech enabled and modern. And so, one of the problems I faced at the time was actually guest communications. Our general manager of that resort had left. And so, a lot of that guest communications fell on our shoulders. And given my background experience in software and startups, I thought this was the perfect problem to solve and proceeded to go ahead and begin to solve that problem.
Yeah,
So that's kind of the origin of HelloHost, actually.
it's always the best is like when someone builds something for themselves because they like truly understand the problem. And what I really like about HelloHost, and I know you like kind of you guys are expanding different products, but I really like about it is like it was very focused on the guest messaging, and I think a lot of you there's a lot of different tools out there to do a lot of different things. So what I'm really most interested about is like finding the tool that just does like just to do a really 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 good job in one thing. That's actually what I really care about. If I'm just like solve that one big problem, one piece of technology. It would free up my time to look at do other things. And so I really loved about Hello is just like how fast and easy, intuitive it was to utilize it. To one, onboarded without a bunch of onboarding, and then two, it just like it learns and it runs. Um, barring the occasional or hopefully infrequent OpenAI or AWS issues, um, it's great. And like it's always there. It's not, it doesn't take any time off or get sick or, any of those kind of things. So it's a really good employee that we have right now.
Yeah, same for us. But right now, it's just taking care of of that business.
Exactly. Well, let's, I don't want to, like, I think it's a really good solution. We'll talk more about that. But what I really wanted to talk about today, having you on the show, is like on AI. It's such a hot topic. NVIDIA actually just reported yesterday, this is being recorded November 20th. Blowout quarter, a lot of chips sold, a lot more chips to sell, a lot more AI to come, right? Broad strokes. And, as we're kind of expanding the scope a little bit of investing, that's why I really want to hit on that topic because we're seeing it really transform short-term rentals and how Airbnb operates and how we interact with the platforms. So I want to start off there, right? Like, and ask you a direct question. We're seeing Airbnb do a lot on the AI side. Like, just from your outside perspective, what are you seeing them doing, and how does it impact us as hosts and investors?
Yeah, for sure. So I think this um, impacts two specific categories, obviously on the guest experience side, but also on the hosting side. On the guest experience side, you can envision this as a better matching algorithm between people who are searching for a particular stay with the actual stays that are being recommended to them. Whereas before, you can think of it as a very standard search algorithm. Nowadays, Airbnb is going to be looking at your past search experiences, your past stays. It's going to be a little bit more tailored in finding the right property to recommend to you, as opposed to just giving a list of all the properties available in a region. So that's something to be aware of on the guest experience side, and on the hosting side, I think you're going to see so many different sort of application of AI in their platforms. The most immediate one is obviously in their guest communications or host and guest communications inbox, right? So every time a guest is writing in, you're responding. Obviously, you could be using an AI software, third party AI software to do that. But Airbnb, even though it's not offering you the service, it's still reading all of your messaging, and it
Hmm.
is making conclusions about those about the messaging. So, for example, enforcing their policies related to off platform or directing guests off platform to complete the transaction. That's one of the top ways that they're using on the host side, but they're also looking to see if a guest is experiencing a problem during their stay. So, for example, if someone enters the property that is not the guest or the host, unauthorized entry, or let's say an emergency, Airbnb will actually be notified. Airbnb support will be notified. They'll have someone sort of actually manually review that conversation. But these are just
Interesting.
some, yeah, examples. They're actually kind of reading all of your messaging.
Yeah, I just naturally assume they're already listening. They record everything in, but it's a really good insight that you're sharing that they are actively monitoring guest communications. Like for them, it's important for them to enforce that off-platform policy. I mean, if people are booking off-platform using Airbnb as just a lead engine, a free lead engine, grabbing contact information and then ticking them off the platform to avoid the booking fee, that's direct revenue out of their pocket. So, obviously very understandable that they don't want that to happen. I think that's really interesting that they're listening to the conversations and I guess in a way it could be good for hosts too, because if a guest is being abusive or they are doing something they shouldn't be, the AI should be picking that up as well. And then obviously on the host side, if something's happening there, they can triage that issue more quickly and effectively. I guess what I'd be curious about to get your view. I have a view, but like on review, like how they assess reviews now, it's just like a point system. Will it be a lot more contextual on what the people are actually saying? Because that's like a big part of how guests evaluate properties, that or photos, where people get different photos based on their their history. I guess that's maybe more just guest discovery, but maybe just from the host side, like what else will AI? What do you see in the next like 6-12 months where AI is going to impact for us on the host side specifically?
Yeah, I think I'm sure a lot of all hosts have interacted with Airbnb support in a lot of cases. In those cases, you think it's determined by a human. You think that there's someone who's going to be investigating all the evidence or documentation that you're producing, but I think in the back it's all AI assisted. There's already a conclusion or a semi conclusion, and the human just needs to sign off on the decision. So going back to reviews, if there's a particular incident that has happened, or whether or not a review should possibly be removed, I think some of those decisions are already being made by AI.
Do, do you think that's why it's been so difficult to remove any reviews now? Like, everyone's saying that, previously was not easy, but they were more reasonable, and now the removal rate is very, very low. The default is no.
Yes, I think this probably has an impact. I think just the standardization of policy being applied across the board
Mm,
is a part of that.
got it. And then, any insights on how the guest the customer discovery journey? Because I think that's actually a really important topic that a lot of people probably haven't thought about. Because you go on, you search for your dates, your location. Even that now is a little bit nebulous, and then you get a set of options. Will it be more of a ChatGPT type voice memo type UI where you're just telling it, hey, I'm not really sure where I want to go. I'm gonna go to the beach, maybe in Europe. Around these dates I can travel. Like I kind of like this, I don't like that. Help me find something, and
Yeah.
then it just pops up. Because that's how I use AI. I give it a lot of context of kind of what I want. I'll let it kind of do its thing. Do you think that's the road we're headed?
I think that is the road that we're headed. I think that general consumers will be using ChatGPT as their assistant, going to a platform and searching for, actually describing, to your point, describing the entire trip that they would like to have, and as a part of that experience, even having the AI possibly book the trip on your behalf. And in here right now, you might be doing that through Google. You might be going to Airbnb directly. All of those platforms are going to have to find a way to integrate with an AI assistant, such as ChatGPT. So I actually don't think this is a problem that hosts are looking to solve right away, but rather for a platform like Airbnb to
Yeah.
solve. They're thinking the biggest problem, or the biggest thing that they want to solve on their mind, is how do I shift all of my users? How do I make sure I am where my users are, where my
Yeah, and also
beginning
from a
expression.
revenue perspective, because if no, they're no longer the first discover, if they're no longer in the discovery engine, and they're like us and just a supplier to the LLMs, to the open to ChatGPT or Gemini or Anthropic or any other of one of the other the consumer AI apps, that's just a real problem. There was an interview with Brian Chesky maybe a year ago. I think it was on CNBC. He was asked very directly on how ChatGPT was going to impact their business. And Airbnb is based in San Francisco. I think Brian and Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, they know each other all very well. And he was asked a pointed question on, why haven't you integrated with ChatGPT? Because Booking.com is actually, and I think he gave a very kind of PC answer on, we're working through it, yada yada yada. But I think fundamentally they're probably just trying to figure out, well, if we just give everything to them, and then they'll come back to us and say, great, I'm glad you're making your 18%, but we'd like half of that. And if not, we're going to show, if not, then
I imagine some negotiations as such are happening in the background because Airbnb already has this agreement with Google, right? They're already paying advertising fees. So the question is, how
how
much of
much.
that is going to start going to OpenAI? Yeah,
And then,
but in the
sorry,
background,
guys.
they're also OpenAI is working on a protocol to allow for large software companies to integrate directly with their platform. So you can expect to start opening Airbnb directly inside ChatGPT
So it's not
relatively.
it's not just building like a SDK to, or it's not just building out some tech. So it's going to be, I guess maybe describe that. It's actually really interesting.
Yeah, I think we can expect the interface of ChatGPT to start changing so that you can actually just start think of it ChatGPT turning into a semi browser, so you'll be able to open like Airbnb directly inside ChatGPT and be able to search that page directly through ChatGPT.
I,
Yes,
I
or
actually
direct AI to search.
interesting. I mean, look, we're recording this. I'm using Gemini. Or sorry, I'm using Chrome. There's a
Mhm.
Gemini screen, or there's a Gemini button to the top right of my screen. I downloaded ChatGPT Atlas. I haven't played around with it because um, I have two kids and I have no time to do anything else. But so you think within, they've already, I guess they're along that road. They've already released a browser that integrates ChatGPT into a browser. So you think that will just become more of a platform for them to control the discovery
Yeah,
process even further.
yeah. Yeah, so they'll be able to see everything that you're seeing on your
Got
screen,
it.
and the AI will be able to answer questions that you're and actually perform actions that you're planning to perform on your
How,
screen.
how do you think? How do you think it impacts you as an investor? Like, I mean, you own, effectively a boutique hotel north of Toronto,
Yeah.
and folks here are listening. They're either Airbnb investors or thinking about it. How do you think? How do you kind of handicap it for yourself, and how would you manage your business to, I don't say future proof because I think that's too hard, but try to mitigate some of that risk that disruption risk.
Yeah, for us, it has always been about crafting a very unique and specialized guest experience, especially for that particular region. So we know exactly what guests going to that region are looking for. And that includes, to see the fall leaves or in the wintertime to go skiing nearby or to go ice fishing. And so that has been incorporated from an SEO standpoint. About 30 to 40% of our bookings are direct bookings from our website. And we've invested heavily to make that happen and to diversify ourselves from the OTAs. And I think that for like the next step of this is actually optimizing for AI so that people who
Mm,
are just going onto ChatGPT to search for ice fishing from Toronto is going to be able to discover the resort.
interesting.
So that's kind of what we're thinking from operational and perhaps investment standpoint for the retreat.
It's actually something new I was reading about too. It's with traditional search, it's very much a SEO type,
Yeah.
search engine
Google ads.
optimizations, Google ads, having the right keywords, and then with now people are looking for, they're starting their search for information not on the Google search bar, but really through a either voice or text or increasingly voice on one of the on ChatGPT or some of the other competitors. So that is a pretty fundamental shift, right? I'm just thinking, how do you optimize for being on the LLMs, right? Or being on the AI platforms. I've read it's more like polling versus voting. There's an analogy I read online where it's more about trying to be as pop. And I don't the formulation I kind of forget, but trying to be like very popular within certain keywords, but not SEO. And maybe if you have any context there to share, or maybe ask differently, how do you rank better on? How do you have your property show up on ChatGPT if someone's looking for ice fishing in Toronto? That's a better question.
Now there are services and different software companies that are specialized in this.
Really?
It's yeah, I mean AI engine optimization, very similar to SEO, but essentially making sure that your website has the correct keywords in the back so that when AI is crawling through it, that it's picking up the right, to your point, again, similar right keywords for a specific person who's asking about a question, a more generalized question. So very similar to SEO, but just slightly with some slight differences.
Is it
Um,
legit? Is it legit? Are they legit? Are they? Is
yeah,
it real or is it more kind of hand wavy?
I think it's a little bit more hand waving right now, but I think this industry is going to continue to mature, and so you'll see more effective strategies
Okay.
over time being
Okay.
developed. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
That's really interesting. Um, look
But
at, you know,
I'll give you one example. Like right
sure.
now, when we talk about search engine optimization, oftentimes it is looking at just the website. But the AI is not only going to look at the website. It might also be looking at your Google reviews and what people are leaving for your Google reviews. It's going to be looking at multiple different factors aside from just
Mm,
your website. It can crawl through 50 different websites to understand what people are saying about your business. So I think there's just a little bit more data points in terms of how AI is specifically ranking this. We're still not 100% sure. So there's just been a lot of these types of services out to test what is more effective for an individual.
mm, interesting. Interesting. No, that's in a way it gives a more level playing ground if you just have really good organic or you have very good reviews, right? Versus paying a service to, increase your artificially increase your ranking through, different ways. Although that, as I think through it, then I'm sure there's going to be artificial ways to, trick the LLMs too. So, it's just it's the arms race within digital
Yes.
marketing that we all know and love. Um, I want to actually transition back to Hello Host because I know there are a lot of short-term rental operators here, and it's a huge topic right now. How do I utilize AI into my business? And I'll start off there. I'll kick it off a little bit. Our first journey within AI was through ChatGPT. Getting my team, us and our team, to utilize it. That being the first source of question, or that's the first kind of go-to source to ask your questions, and we found a lot of those could be answered just through ChatGPT. And then we optimized that further, and then we went on the path of, well, instead of us putting in or my VAs putting in the questions into ChatGPT and getting an answer and then copy and pasting it, why don't we actually do something more robust? And we looked at a number of different solutions actually before we landed on Hello Host, and what I really loved about it was how fast and how easy it was to use and how good it's been at learning. And so I'd love to hear just, maybe just from maybe not technical perspective, but just like how do you think about designing and building the product and continue to improve it? Because I just in the past year I've noticed just getting better and better.
Yeah, for sure. So I think when people think about a guest communications tool or software, they're thinking of a very simple chat bot. Take ChatGPT plus your guest message, and out comes the answer to the guest. But what we have is essentially autopilot, right? So that means every single answer has to be right. There's no room for error, or very, very little room for error. It has to be saying the right thing at the right time. And so what we built was a more of a multi-agent system. That means there isn't just one instance of an LLM generating the answer. There are multiple agents that work together, and each of them have different functions. Like one is going to be evaluating whether an AI should participate in the conversation. The other one is evaluating what should be the response. How should I improve the response? There's a QA agent in the midst of all of this. So they all have their different tasks, and the entire system pulls them together, and fundamentally generates an answer that we are happy with, and that the host is happy with before responding to the guest. So
So
that is
akin to like a group meeting, every message has a group meeting of like
yeah,
a bunch of different functional leaders,
yes,
and they in near real time figure out the right answer. They're debating
yeah.
amongst themselves and gives an answer, versus maybe what other companies do is it's more of, well, here's the expert, and then the expert just kind of does their
Gives you a
thing.
suggestion, right? Gives you a
Yeah.
suggestion, at which point you still have to review and edit that and decide to send back. In our case, you kind of actually get to step back and not have to be online every time a guest is messaging in.
I think that's the killer feature. At least for me, it was when you first told me that a year ago. I was highly, highly skeptical. It's like, no, that's not possible because we tried a number of ones, and I was like, these answers are not good enough. Like, it's like a starting point, but we need to edit it, and there's no way something could just spit out an answer. And when
Yeah.
you told me that like you were using it on your properties, I was like, okay, was it like one little studio in the middle of nowhere? Like, no, we have like a 16 property resort. It's like, okay, like I'm interested. And then you've been using it for that long, and then you showed me on your phone, and I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
okay, this is surreal. I thought you were, because you get a lot of hand waving. There's a lot of hand waving going on too, with respect to
Mm.
tech and AI. And I was like, this really worked. And then I love that function where it will answer. Annie, I think I lost you.
I'm back now.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, no worries. Where it will just answer for me, and then the
Background
cool thing is like,
disappeared.
and
But
then
anyway.
when you don't, no worries, sorry. And then when you don't, and when you need to respond, you can tell it to stop, and then you kind of you can get to jump in and do that. So, I think that's super cool, and it's not just me. It's so I introduced it to my. We have a little small group where it's me and like five of the guys who now and then love you actually because they're all in you've incorporated HelloHost into their businesses and they've been really happy with it.
Yeah.
So like really kudos to you for a great product. And then now like the new one, right? Tell us about Wally.
Yeah, Wally. Wally's an operations AI agent. It actually lives inside your communications channel. So think WhatsApp or SMS or Slack, and it exists kind of like a person inside your team. And you're going to be able to ping Wally. So you can say, at Wally, let the guest know that maintenance is coming at 2 p.m. In fact, your handyman or your maintenance person who's receiving the notification directly from the guest conversation can let the guest know and just say, hey, Wally, let them know that I'm going to be there at 2. And then Wally can rephrase your message and send it back to the guest directly. So that's an example of what it can do, but it can do a lot more. So you can say, tell me more about this particular guest, and it'll tell you more about the reservation, let you know their check-in and check-out times and dates. Next step, so you can think of like, hey, Wally, let all of my guests know Merry Christmas, right? And it's going to send a message out to all of your
That'd be
guests.
awesome.
Hey, the elevator's not working for this building, and I'll be able to do that.
Oh, it's so cool, so cool. No, I think we're in beta on that, and my team's testing it out, and yeah, we're really excited. I know, if it can do half as much as what the chat automation or the chat bot has done for us, then it's going to really move the needle. Because the operation side is a huge part. I think that was kind of the next biggest pain point for a lot of property managers, and uh, you know, if you can but it's just as complex, and I think the stakes are higher, or it's complex and stakes are higher. But I think the number of different scenarios is actually more limited versus like just a general chatbot where any guest can ask you anything. At least this is like the elevator's not working, the fridge isn't working, the dishwasher doesn't work. Like like 80% of the questions all revolve around maybe like 10, 20 topics. So
Yeah.
maybe from an engineering perspective, a little easier. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. So what we've just seen is just from these guest conversations, there are next steps and there are actions that need to be taken. And so Wally is here to help assist with some of these actions that do need to be taken. And to your point, I think even though the actions are limited, what users can actually say to Wally is just as open ended. So there are just as many options. But
Uh,
similar in building this. Very cool. Very
that's
fun process.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Please build like a voice agent that can go through my phone system and call my handyman and go through and just tell them what's going on and QC it with them. Like that would be super
That's the
cool.
dream for Wally.
That's
That's on the
all
roadmap
right.
for Wally.
All right,
Yeah.
let's actuate Wally's dream. Now this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I mean, on AI and short-term rentals. There are a very few number of you, and we need that within the space because it's such an important technology trend. We need the tooling in order to better run our businesses and keep abreast of what's going on with the OTAs, right? Like they're deploying these tools. Like we as a host need to deploy these tools as well. If not, we're gonna get left behind. And for folks listening too, if you're not using some sort of AI within your business, whether it's just ChatGPT with you and your staff, or something more elevated like HelloHost, like you got to do something because that's just the way the world is going. It's trending, and if you don't get on that bus and make the mistakes now and learn, when right now it's still relatively early, and to be candid, very subsidized. Like you have all these big venture funds and private capital going into AI and really subsidizing usage right now. I guarantee you, like your $20 or $200 a month subscription on OpenAI does not cover its real costs, and in a few years, it's going to be much, much more expensive. So, for folks like me, where we used to take the $2 Uber rides back in like 2010 when they were really trying to promote usage. It's kind of like that. It's like, oh, cool, this Uber thing is like $3, and I can get I live in Manhattan, I can go across town for $3. This is great. I took an Uber back last night for an event. It was $45 for a 10-minute ride. So
I did
that's the
this.
trajectory we're on. That's the trajectory. Like
Yeah.
it's not $20. It's in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So learn now, get ahead of the curve before this train really gets moving.
Yeah. I mean, 5 to 10 years from now, it's going to be AI talking to AI.
I know. It's gonna be a
AI
crazy world.
coordinating with AI. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll ask my traditional closing question as we close the show. And you know, business is a team sport, and we wouldn't be where we are today without the colleagues, the family, the people around us that's helped us along the way. As you think about your entrepreneurial journey through your boutique hotel, through what you're building at Hello Host, maybe what's one person that was very kind to you that helped you get to where you are today?
Well, Michael, yourself immediately came up, I have to say. But in addition to yourself, Kevin, my husband, he's just been with me throughout the entire journey. We've been together for over a decade, and we have a 2.5-year-old. So the fact that I'm able to work on this business means that he's, taking a huge load off of both of our plates in terms of family, in terms of supporting me throughout this whole journey. So I'm just incredibly grateful to him.
Yeah, no, shout out to Kevin. Well, Kevin's the one that flagged me down, so I may not have even met you if
Yeah,
Kevin didn't
so he
flag
made
me
it.
down
Made
after
it
after.
happen.
Yeah, no, shout out to Kevin. I met Kevin a few times in some of the different conferences. So Kevin, thanks for letting Annie do the great work here that helps all of us save time and money so that we can focus on the things that are important to us, right? Either growing our businesses or our family. So it's been great. And Annie, thanks for taking the time today to share your insights with the audience.
Of course. Thank you so much, Michael.
You're welcome. So, folks, if you enjoyed the show and you want to hear more AI content, please subscribe, leave a comment. If you want to learn more about Hello Host, we will put the link to the website on the show notes. I highly encourage you to try for a free demo. That's what got me, and I haven't left ever since. It's a really, really great platform, and I hope you give it a try because I think it will really, really help you. If you operate even one short-term rental, it will really help you elevate what you are able to do and free up your time to focus on growing the business and not just working in the business. So that'll be the show notes. Again, highly encourage you to click on it and give it a shot. And you guys have like a 30-day free trial, right?
We do. Yeah.
Okay,
We
cool,
just want
perfect.
to, yeah, show our users like try for yourself and see the difference that it's going to make in your life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no obligation. And the setup is
Wow.
pretty. The setup's really simple too, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
not much to
30
do.
minute call.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, folks. Thank you for joining today, and please tune in next time for more topics on short-term rentals and how to better invest your time and money. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, don't leave.